Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxson, your host, here with you. And this week we are continuing our conversation about the 2022 class of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame. I am Nate Maxson, your host, and this week I am joined by Archie Mitchell, Mark Brew, and my brother Aaron to discuss the results of the Hall of Fame from this year. And of course, our inductees this year are the Road Warriors, Roddy Piper, Shawn Michaels, Gene Okerlund, Fred Blassie, Buddy Rogers, Curt Hennig, and Paul Heyman. And as we get into this conversation, I will go over the ballot, I will go over the winners again, and we will discuss each and every one of them individually. But before that, I just wanted to run down again the criteria for someone to be in the Hall of Fame, just so that's out there. 10 years plus as a pro, exceptions could be made in a situation like Magnum TA. In-ring ability, promo ability, being of significance to the business, whether as a whole or to a certain promotion or territory, drawing power. And for tag teams, they need to have been a consistent team for at least one calendar year. So that is the criteria for someone to wind up on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. And we will, like I said, get into a conversation here about the results momentarily. I do want to remind you that the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network, which is the network of which this podcast is a part of, is now available on YouTube. Check it out. WrestleNet, one word, WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network on YouTube. Please do check us out. I am posting up recordings of the shows, different highlight clips from the show recordings, things like that. Currently, there is an interview that I did with the one and only Mr. John Arezzi up on the YouTube page right now. So do please go check that out and support us. And of course, you can support us the most by letting people know about our shows. Let them know about the We Can't Wrestle podcast, Reliving the Extreme, etc., etc. That is the best way to get word out and help us out here at the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network. But this is the We Can't Wrestle podcast, and we're talking about the We Can't Wrestle podcast 2022 class of the Hall of Fame. So right now we will go to my conversation with Archie, Mark, and Aaron discussing this year's class. All right, everybody. In this segment for the We Can't Wrestle podcast class of 2022 Hall of Fame, I am joined by some more of our panelists. The first guy here, the one, the only, Mr. Nothing But Trouble podcast, Archie Mitchell.
What's up, everybody?
And of course, El Chupacabra, he is Mr. Mark Brew.
Hola.
And we are also joined on this panel by my brother Aaron.
Hello.
And like I said,
Who's the little person?
Oh, that's my granddaughter. She's mimicking. She heard me say, "What's up, everybody?" So she's saying it.
What's everybody?
Hello.
I should isolate that and make that the opening of the show.
Right.
But I went down the criteria for the Hall of Fame in the open for this year's Hall of Fame. However, we will go through what we're going to do here is we will go through the ballot. We will go through who the guys voted for, why they voted for them, and we'll also figure out, who we're going to try to push to get in next year. Because, as you know, you only get 5 years to make it into the actual Hall of Fame on the ballot before you have to go back to the nominating process. So, and I will, of course, get into to my opinions as well. And Aaron can also shed his light as well. The ballot this year consisted of, and I'll go through how many years they've been on the ballot also. Stu Hart, 3 years. Roddy Piper, 3 years. Paul Heyman, 3 years. Shawn Michaels, 3 years. Sting, 3 years. Ricky Dozon, 3 years. Gene Okerlund, 3 years. Mick Foley, 2. Arn Anderson, 2. The Rock, 2. Fred Blassie, 2. Bob Backlund, 2. And the next guys are all on the ballot for the first year. Vader, Curt Hennig, Ted DiBiase, the Road Warriors, Junkyard Dog, Midnight Express, Sensational Sherry, Rick Rude, Ricky Steamboat, Sergeant Slaughter, The Sheik, Buddy Rogers, and John Cena. So
and Chad Austin.
What?
You forgot Chad Austin.
He'll be on the ballot in 2062, I believe. And who got in this year? Well, the 2022 class of the We Can't Wrestle Podcast Hall of Fame is the Road Warriors, Roddy Piper, and those are the two that got the most votes from the panel. Each one picked up 7 votes out of the 14 that are on the panel. Shawn Michaels, Gene Okerlund, Fred Blassie, Buddy Rogers, Kurt Hennig, and Paul Heyman. So we will start here at the first guy, or the first ones that I have here that got into the Hall of Fame this year, and we'll get everybody's thoughts.
You said Kurt, right?
Yes, Kurt Hennig.
Okay.
We'll get everybody's thoughts here, a little discussion about each one of them, and then, like I said, when we're done, we will go through and see who everybody voted for, and maybe some of the people that didn't get in. The first ones we'll talk about, gents, are the Road Warriors, the 3rd year of the Hall of Fame, and they are in. Archie, what do you think, the Road Warriors? Let me see. Did you vote for the Road Warriors?
I don't believe I did, but I mean, if you're going to have a Hall of Fame, how do you not have the most badass tag team in the world?
You actually did vote for the Road Warriors.
Did I? Okay,
Yes.
I wasn't sure. I'm a Demolition man. I'm a Road Warriors fan, but they're not my number one tag team. But they are the badass tag team in the world. The music, the gear, even Paul Ellering being with them, without Rocco, of course. And I mean, just who doesn't want to hear Iron Man playing when they come out to the ring? You know what I mean? And whether it was Japan, WWF, WCW, even an Impact when they made that small little couple week, tour there, Hulk and Animal were the best, in my opinion. And they deserve their place in the Hall of Fame.
Mark?
Pretty much like Archie said, how can you have a Hall of Fame and not have them in it? Because looking back, I mean, even through the generation before us, the Road Warriors were instrumental in tag team wrestling. So I feel like, how did it take this long to get them in there?
Well, and this is kind of the discussion that you have in something like this, which is why this is my favorite thing to do. And David and John and I talked about this when we had our conversation last week. You look at okay, so we just started this thing 3 years ago, and you look at the caliber of talent that you need to get in first before you can start putting other people in. I mean, before you got these guys in, you had to get a Hulk Hogan in, you had to get the Undertaker in, Andre the Giant, Randy Savage. As the years go on, it gets harder to pick, and you can start going through more people like that. Like this year, I had to really whittle down who I wanted to vote for to try to get them in. I didn't vote for the Road Warriors, not because I don't like the Road Warriors or not because they weren't a great tag team. And I do think they had a huge impact on the business and they were a huge draw. But for me personally, I would rather get, the original Sheik in or something, before I'd rather get the Road Warriors in. So you have decisions to make. Aaron, your thoughts on the Road Warriors?
This might be an out of left field or stupid comment, but the Road Warriors are the Andre the Giant equivalent of a tag team. Like they're the attraction. You know what I mean? Like they don't necessarily have to be your champions, but they were the team of when Andre would come out for the Battle Royal, people would be like, "Holy shit, Andre's here." When I Am Iron Man would hit, everybody was like, "Holy fuck!" like LOD Road Warriors, they're an attraction, and I'm a Demolition guy too, but Demolition wasn't necessarily an attraction. They were in the package of the show. Right. LOD was just, when you say the Road Warriors are going to be on your show, you're just like, I got to go see it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Just like the bearded lady or something like that at the circus, you got to see it.
Right, and going by and I'm also a Demolition guy, but the going by the criteria that we have set for the Hall of Fame, I would put the Road Warriors in before I'd put Demolition in. Just based on what you're talking about, impact on the business, draw,
longevity.
Because Demolition was only a tag team. I mean, not counting like after the WWF on the indies and stuff. But if you think about it, they were only really a major main event tag team for what, 3 years, 4 years?
Right.
You know,
right.
for us, since that was our generation, that little capsule of time seems like forever because they were such a big part of our childhood and everything. But the Road Warriors were much more, to be honest, an influential tag team than Demolition.
Yeah, there's still teams putting on face paint and trying to make their gear look semi-like them. Like, look at the Ascension in the WWE. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be that Road Warriors influence, whether it be the style or the look that comes out because tag teams love them.
Right.
I just think the Doomers were they're a transcending tag team, in my opinion.
I agree.
The next guy to get in this year, Roddy Piper. Let's see here. Mark, you did vote for Roddy.
Mm-hmm.
And Archie, you did not.
Yes.
And nor did I. And again.
Did I vote for him? I'm pretty sure I did.
Let me see. Yes, you did.
Obviously I did.
And again, it's another one of those things. Like, I personally, there are other people I want to get into the Hall of Fame before Piper. Not that I don't like Piper. And let's talk about him for a minute. Roddy Piper. Archie?
One of the first heels I ever experienced, because of course I grew up a WWF guy before I got into WCW. One of the first talkers I ever experienced, and hearing somebody, protrude cold hard facts. You know what I mean? Because when he talked, he wasn't making anything up. He wasn't looking to, bullshit you. He was looking to tell you why he was doing what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I did not vote for Roddy because I don't like him. I like Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get across here. I like everybody that's on the 25-person ballot.
Right. But you see another name, for instance, Paul Heyman, and you think of, well, for the last 30 years, Paul Heyman has produced solid teams, or I don't want to get too, but as a manager, Paul Heyman is done amazing things, and then as a writer, and then as a booker. Rowdy did great, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but like Nate said, there are other people that you see on that list that maybe have a little more glimmer to them right away. So I'm happy he's in the Hall of Fame, but I understand where Nate's going with it, why it took 3 years, or even could have took 5 years for that matter, because there are others on the list we may have been voting for, whether it was with our heart or our minds, that we saw deserved it quicker, more so.
Mark, your thoughts on the Hot Rod?
One of the greatest, most controversial promo men of the industry of all time, in my opinion. What he lacked in the ring, he made up for on the mic. And as a kid, I was a fan of the Hot Rod. I mean, he took something simplistic as a sleeper hold and made it a finishing move, and it was believable.
Aaron?
You only want this show to go like an hour. I can't talk too much about Piper, but Piper was fantastic, and it's like what Mark said, where he could take a sleeper hold and make it a finisher. That dude could take a kernel of what somebody said to him and turn it into verbally, turn it into a fucking one of the most memorable segments you could ever hear in your life.
Definitely.
Like, he could take anything anybody said or just the slightest thing somebody did and just make it his own. Like, that dude, there's very few people that were better at their job than what Piper was. especially when he was a heel. But he was even a great face. But like, I when I think of Piper, like I don't even just think about him feuding with Hogan. Like I think of him like going back to Mid Atlantic and all that shit. You know what I mean? Like I just think of that. Like that dude could take chicken shit and make it chicken salad, and he could get a guy over and make him better than what they were, or he could take somebody that thought they were here and just destroy them. You know what
And
I mean?
also the big case to be made, it's an age-old question, and it's a valid question, is in 1985, Hulk Hogan needed Roddy Piper to make Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon needed Roddy Piper to make WrestleMania a success.
Yeah,
Yes, he did.
WrestleMania
Yes, he did.
doesn't.
You wouldn't have Hulkamania without Roddy Piper.
I agree
WrestleMania
100%.
Nobody else would have been able to do it. He was the fucking man at that fucking point, in my opinion. Like him and Orndorff and Orton, they were DX before DX.
Right. Good point.
And it wouldn't have been that if it would have been Dave Schultz or Morocco. And I'm not knocking those guys, but it wouldn't have been the same thing if it wouldn't have been Piper.
I don't even say that there wouldn't have been a Hulkamania without Piper, but what I'll say is with the scope of WrestleMania, and especially the involvement of the celebrities in WrestleMania, that's my main thing. There probably still is Hulkamania, but WrestleMania doesn't work because Piper was the only heel to throw into that situation to make it catch fire with Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T. And, you just there's nobody else that you can look at up and down the spectrum. Right. I mean, if they could have got their hands on Ric Flair, maybe. But
Ric Flair wouldn't even have the balls to say that Mr. T had gnarly bristles.
I agree.
Well, you know what I mean? Like Piper was the fucking man. And people can fight me all fucking day if they want to, but Piper
You'll
was
get no argument here.
The next guy.
A little fun fact about Roddy: he was also a black belt in judo.
Damn, I didn't know that. Thank you, Professor Mike today, Mark Brew.
The next guy to get in this year, he's been on the ballot since we started the thing. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, got in this year to the Hall of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame, and I believe Archie voted for Shawn.
Every year Mark since we started this damn thing. Since we started this damn thing.
And Aaron didn't vote for Shawn. So now let me see if I did.
Shame on you, Aaron.
It's fine.
I did vote for Shawn Michaels. I've been voting for him since the first year. Archie, Shawn Michaels.
I am a huge Shawn Michaels mark. I am someone who will die on the hill that Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest performers that we have seen in the last 25 or 30 years, maybe even longer, because, see, when I say 25 years, I think of 1980. I don't think of 1990, but it is 1990 now. But I am a very big fan of watching wrestlers come up in a big way. For instance, if you watched a guy like Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or The Rock or even Stone Cold Steve Austin, you watch them grow and become more as they got bigger. Shawn is definitely on that list, because to go from just being Shawn Michaels to then being in the Midnight Rockers to then being the Rockers, then that breakup. And of course, it made a household sentence after that happened by it being, well, now you're the Jannetty. You know what I mean? Because he threw his partner to the curb and made a bigger career for himself, you know? And then the battles with Bret Hart through tag team wrestling, intercontinental title, and then world heavyweight title. It goes on and on. That man, Aaron said it about the Road Warriors. Well, the same thing with Shawn Michaels. He transcended to the top. And then at WrestleMania 12, the boyhood dream. And then, yeah, his demons and everything caught up to him and bothered him, but came back and had an amazing run the second time around. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the things. That's one of my biggest things about Sean. Sean had 2 careers.
Mm-hmm.
Sean had 2 careers. They were both great, but he had 2 careers, and I think he did more. He's so in both careers. He's so good in the ring, but I think he did more for the business in his second career.
I agree.
Just his performances and being able to work with younger guys like Orton and Cena and et cetera of the next generation.
Imagine with Shelton, you know, I mean, and the thing of it is, when he came back and they put him in the Elimination Chamber for that first year in Survivor Series, the raw emotion when he won and that crowd popping, and then him coming out on Raw and saying, you ain't going to be seeing any more of those Katie Vick skits anymore, you know, because he hated them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, the matches he had with Cena, Orton, Batista, Flair, Mysterio, you know what I mean? Even the Spirit Squad. Look, I'm not a big Spirit Squad fan, but he made those guys look credible. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Shawn Michaels deserves to be in the Hall of Fame all day, every day.
Mr. Brew?
Kind of like what Archie was saying, just watching his evolution, because some of my earliest wrestling memories I can remember watching the super tapes and the rampages and stuff like that, and
right,
like the 6 and 8 man tags that the Rockers and all would be in, would like it would literally steal the show for me. And I don't know, just over time, watching him grow into the performer that he was, it really he stuck out to me. And I have 2 fun facts about Shawn Michaels also. He had a wrestling match in his high school talent show.
Oh my God.
And Elvis Presley inspired his ring entrance.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's a big Elvis fan. And he probably did cocaine off a hooker's butt at some point. There's another Shawn Michaels fun fact.
And then he tagged in Marty.
Wouldn't that be though a fun what would be not fact, but like we're assuming an assumption.
It's not a tidbit, it's a titbit. Aaron?
About Sean?
That was real tongue in cheek, by the way.
Very well done. Very well done.
Why he should be in, or why I didn't vote for him?
Just your thoughts on Shawn Michaels.
I'm never gonna knock the talent that he is, and his in-ring performance. The only reason that I didn't necessarily vote for him is kind of what you guys were saying, was there's a lot of people ahead of him that should go in before him, you know, and that's the main reason why I wouldn't say that I voted for him, because I just think there's people that should go in before him.
The next guy that got in is somebody that I will. There are 3 people that got in of the 8-person class this year that I think other people should be in before them, most definitely. And I didn't vote for him. And I actually believe the only one of the 4 of us that voted for him this year was Aaron. Let me check and make sure. Check my facts. Yes. And again, this is one of those things. It's like nothing but love, but I think somebody like I don't know, Ricky Dozan should be in the Hall of Fame before Gene Okerlund. But anyway, Mean Gene. We'll talk about Mean Gene.
I'm the only guy that voted for Mean Gene.
Yes.
Wow.
Archie.
Really?
We'll start with out of the four of us, yes.
None of you guys voted for Mean Gene.
Archie?
Okay, go ahead.
Like Nate said, nothing but love, and he is a great interviewer, announcer, and without him, I don't think the WWF would have had interview segments. You know what I mean?
If Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Roddy Piper are a movie, Mean Gene is the accompanying music. He's the background music. You know, he's the accompaniment. He is.
Right.
And yes.
But if we're going by, you know, reasons to be in the Hall of Fame, Gene is definitely lacking when it comes to Ricky Dozon or some of the other names that we know are not on this list yet. You know what I mean? Gene deserves to be there, but it's one of those that could have happened somewhere down the line, not right now. But so he's in there. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's a big deal, but it's not a big deal.
He's in now,
You know?
so you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Mark, your thoughts on Mean Gene?
It's basically like you were saying, Hogan and them were the stars and he was the supporting actor. He had the supporting role. A little fun fact I got on him is Gene's alma mater was the University of Nebraska. After he graduated, he entered the field of radio broadcasting, joining the station KOIL in Omaha, and then moved to Minneapolis to work for the station WDGY and moved on to KDWB. Okerlund worked behind the microphone and in programming.
So he didn't work at WKRP in Cincinnati?
He didn't throw turkeys to their death.
Cincinnati's a sore subject right now for some people.
Yeah, that was why I made the comment.
Aaron, Mean Gene.
Why did I vote for him?
Just your thoughts on Mean Gene.
He's the narrator of my fucking childhood. Like here's a question for you.
Go ahead. If we go by the criteria that we have for the Hall of Fame, how is Gene in already 3 years in, and Gordon Soley hasn't even hit the ballot yet?
Well, I just told you, I had to vote for him. I had to vote. No, I didn't have to vote for him, but I voted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gene told or narrated the story of my childhood. Gordon Soley didn't. So Chad might vote for Gordon Soley because he's older than me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that your vote was invalid or wrong. Hey, he got in. Apparently, enough people voted for him. I was just that's what I like about this is the debate, is the discussion.
Gene is the '80s Gordon Soley. Gordon Soley's in the '70s. You know what I mean? Like I watch shit now and respect Gordon Soley, and when I watch the stuff before my time, he's the narrator of that. But Gene was the guy when I was a kid. He was basically my Gordon Soley. You know what I mean? Like he was the guy that, and anybody's going to talk about in this Hall of Fame, like we've talked about Piper, and who else did we talk about so far?
Sean.
Road Warriors, Sean.
Road
Warriors, all these guys, when they got to the Fed, who was the guy that kept them on fucking point?
True.
Was it Vince? No. Vince might have been the guy to tell them what they were talking about, but who was the guy that kept them on fucking point and made sure they fucking stayed in their lane and understood the fucking story they were telling to sell their fucking tickets? It was Gene Okerlund. Gene Okerlund's the fucking man.
Was that why he was on an ice cream bar?
The next,
I'm just saying, Gene's the fucking man.
That's also how you can tell there's a little bit of an age gap between us because the one of my childhood was Lord Alfred Hayes.
Well, Lord was good too, but Gene was the fucking man. And a lot of those guys would have drowned in those fucking waters if they wouldn't have me and Gene.
The next guy.
Imagine Brutus Beefcake trying to fucking cut a promo without Mean Gene there.
Well, we ain't talking about Brutus. Next guy we're talking about.
Nothing.
Next guy we're talking about.
Am I wrong, though? Am I wrong?
No. I wasn't.
All I wanted to hear.
I'm the
only guy that voted for him, so I just wanted to hear that.
But no one's arguing here.
Well, I'm arguing, but I'm just not arguing. No.
Fred Blassie is next.
Hell, fucking yeah.
Listen up, you pencil neck geek.
And I did indeed, I think, vote for Freddie. I think actually he's one of the guys that I voted for every year since we started the thing.
I voted for him.
And let me see here. Mr. Brew did not.
Nope.
Mr. Mitchell did not.
No, he did not.
But I do have nothing but good things to say about him.
Oh, for sure. Archie?
Honestly and truthfully, and you guys could be upset with me or what, I have nothing bad to say about him, but I don't have enough to say about him because Freddie Blassie, at a point when I got into wrestling, was already either on his way out or gone completely. You know what I mean? Because I got into wrestling in 1990, and when I look back, yeah, he was great and he had a lot of great talent, and he did a lot of wonder. He was originally with Hulk Hogan and everything like that, but I've just never. If you want me to, list off managers, the first names I'm going to say are Heenan, Heyman, Sherry Martel, you know what I mean? Fuji, Cornette. I'm not going to mention Blassie until I get to like 15 or 20. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's probably why I didn't vote for him, because it's never been a name that popped out to me that much. So.
Mark?
Okay, so I have two little excerpts that I'm going to read after I say this. People sleep on Freddie Blassie, but Freddie Blassie was Ric Flair before Ric Flair was Ric Flair. And I say that because, for one, he was a monster heel. For two, he could work anybody. And the first one that I'm going to read says, born in 1918 to German parents who escaped World War I, Blassie took up boxing as a teenager, but found a growing interest in wrestling and actually snuck into matches, eventually befriending catch wrestlers and learning holds from them. The second is, and this is where the Ric Flair before Ric Flair comes in, says, following a stint in the California wrestling scene, Freddie Blassie headed southeast to the Georgia territories in the 1950s, where he would enjoy a whopping 17 reigns with the big title of the region, the NWA Georgia Southern Heavyweight Championship, between 1954 and 1960.
And here's why I make the case for Blassie. And it goes into, and I know Archie and Aaron have been with me on this journey since the beginning. A name that I say over and over and over again is Ricky Dozan. And I am not the guy that pretends to watch Japanese wrestling.
Right.
There is no New Japan Pro Wrestling. There is no All Japan Pro Wrestling without Ricky Dozan and Fred Blassie. And Fred Blassie and John Tolos in California did bigger gates than most pro wrestling does today. Freddie was an influencer. He was a trendsetter. He is one of the greatest wrestling personalities of all time. Did you know that Fred Blassie's feud with Ricky Dozan in Japan is why people in Japan started buying televisions? Literally.
And do you know they started buying televisions and people had heart attacks watching them wrestle? And they said, hey, Freddie, 89 people had heart attacks watching you wrestle. And he was like, I wish I could have got it up to 99. That's what he said.
That's funny.
And that's how he wanted to happen. But that dude, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
I'll talk about Freddie fucking Blassie all goddamn night. He's the best. And he's he transcended. He was the first guy to really get into fucking Hollywood. And he really was. Like, he got like he went to California. Like, when he went to California, he got on their television and he was on there with Regis Philbin and he did all that shit and he had his feud with Ricky Dozan in Japan and all that shit. But he was the first guy to really take television and make it his own. And his book is my favorite wrestling book of all time. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds on it, but Fred Blassie understood what professional wrestling was going to become. And it might be out of left field statement when I say this, but I really think Fred Blassie was the first sports entertainer.
Good point.
I would put the next guy possibly.
Wait, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to get us in the weeds or anything like that.
No.
You said that Japanese people bought televisions to watch Ricky Dozon versus Freddie Blassie. So they were making them and they weren't buying them?
Yeah, literally. I don't remember. I've seen it in a couple of sources, but I don't remember exactly where, so you can't
Right.
quote me. But yeah, there was. I mean, obviously they were selling some TVs, but
Right.
they saw a spike in TV sales
When that
around the
started
time
happening.
of that rivalry, and when asking people, what's making you buy this new technology, it was Ricky Dozon, it was Fred Blassie, it was the pro wrestlers, and that's wrestling has always been, no matter what country, wrestling has always been important to television.
Well, then guess what? You made me now have to go back and watch Freddie Blassie versus Ricky Dozon.
There's not a lot you're gonna see.
I know, but
I've tried.
I'm gonna find something because
there's stuff.
to me.
Yeah, there's stuff on YouTube where you got those things where you just get like a little clip or whatever from a newsreel or something. But
two of the greatest lines in the history of anything is "What cane? I didn't have no cane."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, cane? I didn't have no cane.
Yeah. And then watch My Breakfast with Blassie. And it is Fred Blassie and Andy Kaufman sitting down and having breakfast. And nobody other than Blassie, well, Blassie didn't even really know. But the only person that knows anything's getting recorded is Kaufman. And they're sitting down and they're getting ready to have breakfast at this fucking diner in Los Angeles. And this little Asian lady comes by and Blassie's like, "Oh, are you pregnant?" Because she looks pregnant, And he goes, my wife's Asian, And he's like, oh, like how far along are you? And he's talking to her. And she goes, "Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much." And she walks away. He goes, well, now we don't have to tip her.
Oh, God.
Because he paid attention to her. It's so fucking funny. You got to see him do it, but it's great. Anyway, go ahead, Dave.
And before we move on quickly to the next guy, my favorite non on wrestling television Fred Blassie thing Aaron knows is Fred Blassie and Andy Kaufman on David Letterman with Andy Kaufman singing Jambalaya. But anyway, go watch it. Yeah. Go watch it, folks. If you haven't, you're missing out. The next guy that got in, and Aaron mentioned about being the first sports entertainer with Blassie, I would say you could put this guy on that level too, being one of the first sports entertainers and an introduction to what wrestling was evolving into being, and it is the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers.
I voted for him. I'm pretty sure I put him in.
I voted for Buddy Rogers. Excuse me. Mark, you did not, and Archie did not. And
wow, I'm shocked I didn't.
But Buddy Rogers got in, and to quote him, "To a finer guy, it couldn't have happened."
Yep.
One of the go ahead, Archie.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say my opinion on Buddy. Again, it's like we say, I wasn't alive when he was a big deal. I wasn't alive when he was
nobody was.
But nobody currently living.
Nobody is.
Other than our old grandmother. Buddy Rogers was, and you talk about being influential and being important to television, that early television golden era of wrestling. TV and wrestling have always been best friends because wrestling is cheap entertainment for television stations.
It's easy to shoot.
The personalities are big personalities, and you talk about a big personality, Buddy Rogers, big personality, and again, you talk about influence, and that's what we're with the Hall of Fame. You talk about influence. Hey, that's the original Nature Boy right there. You know, that's the prototype for a Ric Flair or a Buddy Landell or whoever's doing that. Even if they're not called the Nature Boy, we know the gimmick. And so just my opinion on Buddy, and I'm glad he got it. And actually, the last year and the year before, I don't think I voted for him because once again, you have to make decisions. But this year, I finally got to vote for him and get him in.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't vote for him because I am a very big Buddy Rogers fan. My granddad was a big fan of his, and when I started watching wrestling with him, and my granddad loved Ric Flair as well, but he would always tell me, you should see the original Nature Boy. You got to see the original Nature Boy. And when I finally, internet was involved and could finally find footage of him, yeah, he was the prototype. It was all about him. Would there be a WWF without the Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers? Because, him winning the belt in the NWA was kind of the reason that Vince McMahon Sr. said, fuck this, I'm making my own company.
Well, they wanted him to drop it to Thez, and
right.
Instead Vince said, screw you, I'm out.
Right. So, but it's just, I have that, respect for Buddy Rogers in that when I hear somebody get labeled Nature Boy, I have to look around and go, is he? Because he, Flair is the character. Flair is the Nature Boy. The torch was passed. And I guess even with Landell, because he was where he was doing it at, and then the WWE bringing him in kind of as a rib to Ric Flair because Flair wasn't signing with them. But AJ Styles was not a Nature Boy. I don't care what Ric Flair says in TNA. Bobby Walker was not a Nature Boy because they tried to label him that as the Black Nature Boy at one point in the late 90s.
Paul Lee.
Oh, shut your mouth.
I mean.
But no, the platinum blonde, tuxedo wearing, womanizing, I have more money than you, I have more class than you, heel. Blassie and Rogers, I mean, Blassie was different because Blassie had more of a hard edge, I guess, is what I'd say. Whereas Rogers is the prototype for that gimmick.
Right. I don't want to say feminine, but he was worried about his hair and the way his robe looked. You know what I mean? Blassie just came out there and fought. But with Rogers, it was, all about the presentation. You know what I mean? So I once remarked a while ago, it was a long time ago, Randy Orton was the WWF champion. And he said, you see this belt? And he threw it down and he said, that's just a prop. It's not the man. It's not the belt that makes the man. It's the man that makes the belt. And I literally said, wow, Buddy Rogers would be rolling over in his grave because he loved having a championship belt. And it wasn't about him. It was about making the belt better. You know what I mean? So it was just things like that, naming people Nature Boy just for the sake of it and, shitting on a title and things. It makes me lose respect for those wrestlers because I know what Buddy Rogers did to make wrestling what it is, so.
And sorry, can I say something about it?
Mm-hmm.
All you, brother. I was done.
I understand that Flair took the name from it, and I'm a huge Flair mark. But when I look at Buddy Rogers, I don't look at Ric Flair as being his generation of Buddy Rogers. I honestly look at being the next generation of Buddy Rogers.
Cool.
Nick Bockwinkel.
Really?
Yeah. Like, Bockwinkel didn't take the Nature Boy name, but he took the Nature Boy presence.
Attitude? Okay.
Of being articulate, being the best guy in the ring, and I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, but I just feel that way about it. Like, sharp dressed, smart. Like, Ric Flair would have never said to a nicer guy it couldn't have happened. But I can see Bockwinkel saying that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
that might be dumb.
No, and that's why I said prototype for a gimmick, because they both were, Flair and Bockwinkel were both doing the same gimmick. Essentially, they were just doing it in different ways. Flair's more flamboyant, you know.
Yeah, but Bockwinkel's more like I'm classy. I'm putting Bockwinkel in next year. I don't care what you guys say.
Well, you got to get him on the ballot first.
I will.
My thoughts on him. This is one of the wrestlers that I've actually read the book on. He, like Archie was saying about the presentation and stuff, as younger, he was inspired by Gorgeous George and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so that's another guy. And I don't want to cut you off, but that's another guy that how has he not hit our ballot yet? You know, that's why I love this Hall of Fame thing. It's so much fun. But anyway, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
And also, he was supposed to wrestle Landale in the 1980s, but the promotion folded and Rogers died months later. So,
yep, 1992. He was supposed to have a match with Buddy Landell, and it didn't happen because some shit with the promoter. Actually, it was covered. If you listen to the Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast with John Arezzi, it was actually covered on one of his radio shows. He had Buddy Rogers on the show.
He probably did blow with Landell.
What's that?
He probably did some blow with Landell and just terribly.
The next two guys that got in this year are two guys.
I'm sorry. Buddy Rogers didn't do blow with Buddy Landell.
It's the pro wrestling business. It's highly possible. The next two guys that got in are guys that I am a huge fan of. But the last two guys that got in this year shouldn't have got in before other people. Anyway, we'll go in right now. And I know Archie and I are going to fight about one of them, and that's fine. I don't like the word fight. We're going to debate about one of them.
I'm fighting. I'm fighting.
All right.
We're going to find out who the master debater is.
The master what?
What?
I'm gonna shut off my video feed.
This is I was gonna say this is not.
I know you want to hear audio with heavy breathing, but it'll be okay.
This is not the fapping edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Oh
God. So the first guy is, and I want to say this. I want to preface this by saying this. Anybody that listens to this show knows that this guy is one of my top 5 favorite pro wrestlers of all time. To me, he is the number 1 best in-ring pro wrestler that I've ever watched. It's Curt Hennig. All right, Curt Hennig got in this year, and that's great. That's great. I didn't vote for him. I love Curt Hennig, but I didn't vote for him.
I didn't vote for him.
Archie voted for him.
Yes.
And Mark did not. And Aaron voted for him. And it's not that I wouldn't vote for him, but there are people that I want to get in before Curt Hennig because of all of the criteria. You know, the criteria has to do with the drawing power. The criteria has to do with so many different. Yes, wrestling ability is there. Personality is there. He had it all. You know how much I love Curt. And I'm glad he got in because now I don't have to worry about it. But I don't have to agonize about whether I'm going to vote for him or not. So God bless it. I'm glad Curt Hennig got into our Hall of Fame. Archie, your thoughts, Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig.
Well, I'm again started out watching him in the WWF, but once as I got older, I went back and looked at the AWA stuff, and he was much grittier in the AWA. You know what I mean? He had that fine tough shadow.
I don't want to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
He's one of those guys where there are times where like there are those wrestling fans like on the Jim Cornette spectrum, and I sometimes I am that guy. And there are a lot of those historians and stuff that are kind of pretentious about the WWF,
right?
And they always, they're always like they're the guys that are like, well, he was great, but then he went to the WWF, and But anyway,
No, I think he got
And
better when he got to the
a
WWF.
lot of them do that. I would say that is one guy that I would say I would put his WWF work up against work he did in any other territory,
Right.
ever. Whether it be the AWA, whether it be WCW, his peak Kurt Hennig is like 88 to 93 WWF. But anyway, I didn't want to cut you off.
No. But I mean, like I said, grittier in the AWA, came into WWF, got molded into this Mr. Perfect gimmick, which was, I mean, who else could they have put in that gimmick? There was nobody else that could have done that gimmick the way he did. That smug look, that my shit don't stink smile. You know what I mean?
And when the rebel rang, he was perfect.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Bobby Heenan as his manager, it just made it all the more better. And I have to say, his match with Bret Hart, their first match, when Bret, turned the figure four, them both being down on the ground into the sharpshooter. And I believe that was SummerSlam, right? 1991?
91, yes.
Yeah. And, that is one of my favorite moments. And one of the most, in my opinion, the one guy, maybe he didn't need it, but he should have been WWF champion, even if it would have only have been for 6 months, because that guy would have busted his ass with the title compared to Hogan waiting 6 months to defend the belt every 6 months. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hennig should have been WWF champion at least once.
Mark?
I'll say this. We wouldn't have the hardcore championship without him because he busted up that winged eagle. As far as like in-ring perfection, he had it. He also had one of my favorite moves, the spitting the gum up and smacking it. I still do that to this day. And Archie was talking about him and Brett, but a lot of people, if they go back and watch, him and Bulldog had some fucking awesome matches too.
Yes, they did. Even him and Beefcake.
It's like one of my favorite persons to watch against Hennig was Bulldog, just for because you got this guy. He's not all muscled up, but I mean he's in shape and he's athletic as hell. And then you got this specimen of Bulldog, and the two just melded so well together. I think he's very deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. I enjoyed the AWA stuff as well, but like you said, his WWF stuff stands out among the rest of it to me. Also, I hated the WCW West Texas Redneck stuff.
Why?
It wasn't my thing.
Yeah, but rap is crap.
And two matches that don't get spoken of enough that Kurt Hennig had in his WWF run that I think everybody should check out if they ever get a chance. There is the match that is the finals of the Intercontinental Championship tournament between Mr. Perfect and Tito Santana in 1990 is a fantastic match. It's so good that there are times even 30 years later where you think Tito might win because Kurt is such a great heel wrestler.
He sell like a motherfucker.
Yes, and he made and I'm not saying he made Tito look good. Tito's Tito, Tito. But I mean, those two in the ring against each other in 1990, it's amazing. And also his match with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 1993.
Yep,
is fantastic as well. Aaron, your thoughts on Kurt Hennig before we get her done?
Kurt Hennig's the second greatest professional wrestler to ever live.
In the ring, I agree.
Yeah, that's what I just said. He's the second greatest professional wrestler to ever live. Like, it's him, and there's a guy before him, and he's not on our list, so I'm not going to talk about him. But Kurt, fundamentally, in the ring, is second to only one. And I've never seen a terrible... I've never seen a bad Kurt Hennig match. I was talking about Kurt Angle too.
Wrong Kurt.
Kurt Angle's 35. I'd put Kurt Angle at 5, but Kurt Hennig is the second. I gotta put this guy's name in my. I gotta put this guy's. What the fuck is that?
Shot clock.
I gotta put this guy's name out there just to say it. The only person I'd put in front of Kurt Hennig is Randy Savage. Okay.
Wow.
That's the only guy I'd put ahead of him. It's Randy Savage and Kurt Hennig. They're 1A and 1-2. Those dudes are my favorites. Kurt Hennig is fucking fantastic. And if anybody would try to tell me any different, I would fight them in a fucking alley and stab him in the neck.
God.
Tell us how you really feel.
I just told you. That dude, I've never seen him have a bad match in my entire life. And I've never seen him cut a bad promo. I've never seen him do anything that wasn't fucking perfect. And I'm not even using that as a cliche. That fucking dude is fantastic.
Keep all sharp objects away from Aaron.
In dark alleys.
Last this year, certainly not least.
He was even a great commentator.
Yeah.
When he commentated, he was great. Like, that dude did nothing wrong or bad the entire time he was alive.
Aaron, I'll back you up here. Remember the lead into the SummerSlam tag team match where it was Razor Ramon or was it Survivor Series? Razor Ramon and Ric Flair versus Randy Savage and Warrior. Warrior crapped out, so Macho Man asked Mr. Perfect at the beginning of primetime wrestling if he joined him.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's something that sticks out in my head. Kurt Hennig pouring the water on Bobby Heenan, laughing. Like, I'll be with you there, Macho. He's a wet weasel.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That dude was great in everything he fucking did.
The last guy this year into the Hall of Fame is another one that there are bunches of people on the ballot that I would put in before him, me personally. And I will get to my reasons, but we'll go to the two guys that voted for him this year first. And the first one is Archie. I know you are a huge advocate. Excuse the pun, the advocate. And I am not going to disagree with you on anything other than the fact that there are people that need to be in before him. The man's name is Paul Heyman, Archie Mitchell, Paul Heyman.
My name is Archie Mitchell, and I'm here to advocate for one of the greatest managers in wrestling history, Paul Heyman. The reason being, whether he was with the Samoan SWAT team, whether he was with the Dangerous Alliance, whether he was just with Rick Rude in WCW, he played the part of a yuppie, geeky, annoying as fuck manager to the T. But then he leaves that company and he starts his own. And ECW, through Paul Heyman's craziness and genius, is born and now becomes one of the top 3 wrestling companies in the 90s. And in my opinion, some nights put on a great product, better than WCW and the WWF, because they were only worried about each other. Meanwhile, here's this little engine that could company with the brainchild of Paul Heyman putting on great shows. And then, when he couldn't pay anybody, and he got thrown out of his own company, and WWF bailed him out, he goes to the WWF. He does great on commentary. He does great, even in the crappiness that was the Invasion, Paul Heyman was doing his very best work. But then he gave us Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? And the voice, the look, the ponytail, which he doesn't have anymore. Even till today, what he's doing with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. The man always makes you want to be involved in the match that he's going to be a part of. And he's not a wrestler. I think he's had like 3 matches in his entire career. A tuxedo match with Medusa. A tuxedo match with Jim Cornette. A match with Medusa. And then he had a match with CM Punk in WWE.
Wasn't there a deal where he teamed up with Brock against the Hardys too, I think.
Yeah, but he never got in the ring. But yeah, he was still on the ballot, on the bill. So, I mean, but yeah, Paul Heyman, I'm not going to put him as my top favorite manager. That goes to Bobby Heenan. But definitely a 1B to Bobby Heenan, 1A and 1B, because he knew how to make a stable, he knew how to make a wrestling company, he knows how to book, and he knows how to tell a story. So that's my feelings.
Mark?
Great mind for the business. Like Archie said, fucking heat magnet, bro. Like you can put him with anybody. Like even if the guy has no mic skills whatsoever and doesn't know how to draw heat, put Paul on the mic with him, he's gonna be hated instantly.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
He knew what he was doing when he done ECW because he created stars. I mean, if you see Rob Van Dam to this day, what's your first thought? ECW,
Heyman.
ECW. Yep. I mean, he's had longevity in the business. He was funded in ECW by WWE and stuff. So, I mean,
there are, again, like I said, there are plenty of people on our ballot that I would probably put in before Paul. But to talk about the positives and to understand, and me saying that I understand that the people that voted for him, why they voted for him, if I'm talking about one of the credentials as influential in the business.
Right.
He made ECW, and ECW changed the business. ECW was the model for the Attitude Era in the WWF. So they can say what they want. Vince Russo can fucking say what he wants to say. He looked at ECW and said, how can I convince Vince McMahon to do something like this?
Right.
But in Vince McMahon's company. And I'm not, and you know, I'm not going to take anything away from the WWF. They were great too. I'm not saying that. But also, like you guys said, great on the mic, great manager, long career, super long career. He has staying power. So again, I'm not saying Paul doesn't deserve to be in. I just think there were people that deserved to be in before Paulie. So, but he's in now. So like I always say, he's in now. Doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
I got two last things to say about him. He'll never get more heat from me other than when he faked cardiac arrest making fun of Jerry Lawler. And something interesting that I found out was that on Stone Cold's podcast, he said he has some scripts that's prepared for Hollywood. He's just waiting for the right time. So I'm wondering which one of these WWE studio movies coming out is going to be a Paul Heyman.
Right. Well, see what Mark just said before Aaron goes. When he came out dressed like Paul Bearer during the CM Punk Taker feud, I was like, wow, what a son of a bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my favorite line he ever delivered was at ECW One Night Stand. He was looking at JBL, and he said, JBL, the longest world champion in SmackDown history. Why? Because Triple H didn't want to work on
Tuesdays.
Yes. And I was just like, you know what? If that wasn't a total shit on JBL, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, Paul is definitely one of my favorites.
Aaron?
If you guys want to watch a great Paul Heyman deal, look him up. Talking, I think this is like 96 or 97, and he's doing like a panel discussion, and he's talking about when he went to Memphis and said the word lesbian on Memphis television. It's great.
It is. It's fun.
It's a fantastic. It's a 2-part fucking YouTube video, and I can send you guys the link. But it's one of the best goddamn wrestling stories you'll ever hear in your life. But Paulie is fantastic. Paulie deserves everything that he's got in his career. And he is what professional wrestling is. Like he is the ultimate. He's the ultimate carny. Like
That's what made ECW great. It was a sideshow.
it is, but what I'm
Right.
saying is like he got to where he's at now by selling himself and lying and hustling and doing all his shit to get where he's at now. And I can't use, you guys said a lot about him, so I don't have a lot of words to say about him, but I'm just saying, like, he is the ultimate politician in wrestling. And I applaud him for it. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not knocking the guy. I'm saying, like, God bless him. I think he's great.
In wrestling, you're a 1099, and he's the ultimate 1099.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that is the 2022 class of the We Can't Wrestle Podcast Hall of Fame. So now, just real quick with the guys here, I want to go to the people that each of us voted for that didn't get in, and quickly, who of those people you're making the biggest case for. We won't go through each one individually. I won't be like, you voted for this guy. Why? You voted for this guy. Why? I'll give you who you voted for that didn't get in. And if there's anybody, like one or two, that you're really passionate about and want to make your case for real quick that should be in already, let me know. Archie, I'll start with you.
Okay.
The people that you voted for that did not get in this year were Arn Anderson, Vader, Sensational Sherry, and Rick Rude.
I'd like to make a case for all four, but I think the one that's missing and that should be in there is Arn Anderson, because
He has a gun to your head.
well, that but
his Teddy Ruxpin good looks.
Glock 9 Arn.
guys, the man made me want to wear those sunglasses that he wore in the 80s. You know, that
fedora.
Yeah, I mean, everything about him was cool in the 80s and even in the 90s. The tag team specialist that he was, not just with Tully, but with Larry Zbyszko, Bobby Eaton. You know what I mean? When he teamed with Terry Funk.
Oh,
when he turned.
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Arn's like the top 2 greatest tag team wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, you know, I mean, when he turned on Dustin Rhodes, and Dustin begged him to be his partner, and then would that Dusty promo have ever happened about it's about blood? You know what I mean? I need a hug and a kiss from you, Daddy, and we can make this. You know what I mean? That made it was because of Arn Anderson. You know what I mean? And then you look at him after his wrestling career, and that he was a booker in the WWE, and he was someone that was spotting talent, and everything that he did for the WWE. I mean, in my opinion, Ric Flair would not have been champion for as long or as many times. And I know it makes me sound like, oh, it's real to me, damn it. But without Arn Anderson watching his back, Ric Flair is, just another guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even without the Horsemen, when there was Anderson and Flair, it was special.
There's Archie in his Arn Anderson attire.
And I did have a gun in my pocket, Mark. So, with a squirt gun, but
I felt the need to share that.
I have no problem with that. I like that picture.
So Mark and I there's one guy that I'm gonna, as we go through, actually there's two guys that Mark and I agreed on here, but one that he and I had talked about on the side that I am definitely advocating for at this point now that we've gotten a few years in. But anyway, Mark, the people that you voted for on the ballot this year that did not make it in were Mick Foley, John Cena, the Junkyard Dog, and Sting.
We talked about Cena.
Yes, we did.
The one that I'm really making the push for next year is JYD.
I agree. You talk about a draw. You talk about a draw.
He was the Black Hulk Hogan.
Well, and not just that, but if you really zero down,
I've never heard that statement made. He was the Black Hulk Hogan.
if you really zero down on JYD in the Mid-South territory in New Orleans, I mean, who dat? Where the fuck does that saying come from? Literally, it comes from the people in New Orleans and Junkyard Dog. He was a cultural phenomenon. He could have a match with a broomstick and it would pack the Superdome. Dare I say it was, I don't know. I don't know if I want to debate him and Bobo, who was the biggest African-American star of all time, but Jesus
Bobo
Christ.
was taller.
Well, okay. But
sorry.
But I agree with you I totally agree with you on JYD because I voted for him too, Mark.
Well, I mean, he also inspired Mark Henry and other guys of the next generation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have all right, if the conversation comes up, who is the best African American professional wrestler of all time? JYD has my vote, hands down.
All right, so for me, Aaron, do you want to do yours on this clip, on this segment, or do you want to do it in a different one with other people?
Aaron's smirking. He has something to say about JYD.
No, I don't. I love JYD. Tell me
Aaron was doing a run-in on this segment, or he was supposed to. So my question to him is, does he want me to do his on this one or on another one?
This one's fine. I'm comfortable with these guys. I don't know who's going to be on the next fucking show. That's going to be some interlopers that I don't fucking know.
Okay. So
don't put me with strangers.
Let's see here.
Stranger danger.
Stranger danger.
All right, so
ask you where they touched me on the bear. I don't want that.
the people that you voted for that did not get in this year, and if you want to make a case for one in particular that you're going to keep trying for,
right?
Sergeant Slaughter,
okay,
Stu Hart, and Vader.
I can only pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have to, but one in depth. How about one in depth?
Okay, I'll say Sergeant Slaughter is not my in-depth one, but Sergeant Slaughter was Hulk Hogan before Hulk Hogan. That's all I'll say. But the one I'll die on a hill for every time is Stu Hart. That fucking dude trained every fucking buddy. And he was wrestling do you get I'm getting lost in my words, but do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like there was a generation of wrestlers that fucking guy trained. Like he's on the same level of Vern and I make fun of Vern Gagne a lot, but Stu trained so many of the guys that all of us love watching, like from fucking Abdul the Butcher to Brian Pillman. This fucking guy taught them how the fucking business was and got them fucking ready. Stu Hart you should just write him into your little pamphlet that you have for your Hall of Fame. Like don't even let anybody vote for it. Just put him in.
I've been voting for him since the first year. But
that fucking dude is the baddest ass. Him and Harley Race are the baddest ass human beings that ever existed in the professional wrestling business. There's nobody better ass than those two, in my opinion. So, I didn't mean to say little pamphlet. So what I meant was like there isn't a fucking Hall of Fame without a Stu Hart. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the guys that we've talked, like Mark, you said JYD, right?
Yep.
There's no JYD without fucking Stu Hart. And I know he got to Watts, and Watts made him JYD, but he was Sweet Daddy Ritter before he got there. You know what I mean?
Thank God that didn't stick.
Like Stu. Yeah, it's a stupid name or whatever, but Stu built these people. There's Bad News Brown. How many guys like Bad News Brown? Do you guys like Bad News Brown?
Yep.
Okay. There's no Bad News Brown without fucking Stu Hart. How many do you guys like Dynamite Kid? Raise your hand. There's no Dynamite Kid
Definitely.
without Stu Hart. There's no Bret Hart without Stu Hart. There's no a lot of these fucking guys you don't have until they cross through fucking Stampede. And that's all I'm saying. I'll die on that goddamn hill. I'll die on that goddamn hill about Stu Hart. He's the fucking man.
The guys that I voted for this year.
Sorry, Nate, I didn't mean to talk too long.
That's all right. The guy Stu is one of the guys that I voted for. Actually, I voted for him each time. And he's been on the ballot since the beginning. So he's 3 years in. He's got 2 more years to get in, or he has to go back to the ballot process, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I also voted for Junkie.
Mark, just vote next time.
Yeah, just hit JYD with one, and I got you.
I also voted for JYD. I also voted for the original Sheik. I voted for obviously Ricky Dozon, and I voted for John Cena. So my case has been made for Ricky Dozon. I make my case for Ricky Dozon every year. Nobody fucking listens to me except apparently Chris Zaha, because he voted for Ricky Dozon this year. But
I don't even know who that is.
He's another panel member. But no,
sorry, Chris.
So I'm not going to harp on Ricky Dozon because I do it all the time. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. He's got 2 more years left, just like Stu. So other than him, the 2 that I would really, really advocate for this year to trying to get them in is Stu, like Aaron said. So I don't have to elaborate on Stu. And now I think we've come to the point, 3 years in, if we're talking about people that have had an impact on the business, been a major draw, been a major star, it's time to put John Cena in the goddamn Hall of Fame. John Cena deserves to go in this, based on criteria, he deserves to go in this Hall of Fame before Paul Heyman. I'm sorry, Archie.
He threw the pin. Shit's real now.
I mean,
I came on camera to make that statement.
You can see the disgust on his face. Huh?
He deserves to go in this Hall of Fame before the Road Warriors do.
I was going to make
20 years. He was the top guy in the WWE longer than fucking Hulk Hogan was. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame right now.
I was going to offer an olive branch and say that if you guys vote for Vader,
you were going to offer Olive Garden.
Vader, well, I like Olive Garden. They're
Me too.
They're
Olive Garden breadstick.
Keep on with
Garden
the
breadstick.
It's
a never-ending pasta bowl.
A never-ending breadstick.
But no, I was going to say if you guys vote for Vader next year, I'll vote for Ricky Dozon, JYD, and Stu Hart. But now you want to talk about John Cena deserving to be in the Hall of Fame before Paul Heyman? Nope, that offer's off the table.
He's pulling it.
He took a chainsaw to the olive bread.
I'm taking my Olive Garden breadsticks and going in the corner.
But now I am on.
You should have went to Fazoli's, Nate.
I am on get Ricky Dozon in like I have been since the beginning, and now I am advocating for it because if I look at the criteria that we have for this Hall of Fame, John Cena fits the bill. Again,
but hold on,
longer run on top than Hogan in the WWE. Mm-hmm. He is a we how many times during this whole conversation did we say a cultural icon? He's a cultural icon that has transcended the business. He has actually, if you really think about it, and you talk about the WrestleManias that he's been involved in, he's he's actually filled more stadiums than a lot of the guys we talk about in this Hall of Fame. I love Kurt Hennig, and I would watch Kurt Hennig 6 days or 6 days a week and Sunday before I'd watch John Cena. But if I'm looking at this criteria, Cena might go in before Hennig.
But there's one problem.
You
There's
can't
one
see
problem. Yeah,
him.
we're putting in an invisible man.
I got no problem with John Cena.
I have no problem with John Cena either. It's just there's people I felt deserve to be in the
and again, like I said, that's why you guys know I love this, because I love the real debate about this stuff,
Right.
because it's so interesting to hear other people's perspectives. It's so interesting to hear, okay, so why do you make a case for this guy? Because maybe next year, Archie, you made your case earlier for Arn Anderson. Next year, when I vote, maybe I'll be like, what Archie said about Arn was, I gotta put it. You know what I mean? That's what I love about stuff like this.
And the thing about John, and I don't want to step on anybody, but like they say he has like the 5 moves of doom or whatever, like kind of like what they said about Nash, and then people said Hogan can't wrestle, but then Hogan can't wrestle. Well, watch him in Japan and he can work. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I hate when people say John Cena can't wrestle. Watch John Cena and Shawn Michaels for an hour in London.
That's what I was going to say. Was that people say, Hogan couldn't work, but then watch him work with Muta in Japan. And that's what I was going to say, was like, watch John on that Raw when him and Shawn did like an hour and 15 or whatever. And then they did that WrestleMania in, what was it, Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, John can fucking work.
Oh, John Cena
fucking freak.
John Cena had fantastic matches with every high-level worker of the past 20 years.
Exactly, and I will make this argument because I made it before.
He even got decent matches out of fucking Khali.
Right, but here's my thing: all the people who nowadays say Hogan couldn't work, couldn't wrestle, Cena can't wrestle, 5 moves of doom, Nash couldn't do this. Those are fans nowadays. In the 90s, none of us ever said Hogan can't work because we didn't know what that meant.
Right.
You understand?
Exactly.
That was lingo. There is some words I can't stand in the professional wrestling business. Oh, he's too green. Well, how do you know when you've never been in the ring before? Mm-hmm. Oh, he can't work. Again, how do you know that if you've never been in the ring? You know what I mean? These are fans who are looking for, and because of Nate showing me the light on guys like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, who I still like, but I'm not enamored with. These are fans who want flippy shit.
Yes. Well, and now, hold on. On this show, you could go back, everybody, and listen to every single hour that we've ever recorded, Archie. Yes. I have never said Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks can't work.
Right.
And I've never said Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks can't wrestle. I've said Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the work and the wrestling that they do annoys the shit out of me, and I don't watch it.
Exactly.
But there is a complete difference between critiquing
and then saying straight out, I hate this guy because he only has 5 moves. Well, how do you're only watching those 5 moves. You know what I mean? That you're picking up on the bad shit that's going on, which is why we always say, enjoy wrestling for what it is, a show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not Ed McMahon on Star Search. I give it 4.5 stars. No, we're watching as fans, not as critiquers and judges.
But we can critique and we can judge. We just, like I said, I'm totally with you.
The only thing we can't do is wrestle. And that's why it's the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
And Mark is trying to, so Mark, if you end up becoming a wrestler, we got to throw you off the show.
Yeah, Mark's actually the worker of the group. Well, Chad, but
and I was gonna say, how do you say it? Post-mortemly.
Something I don't know. I thought it was post-human.
Humorously.
Post-mortemly. Did I say it? Post-mortemly.
I have no
Posthumously?
idea.
Huh?
Posthumously?
Posthumously inducted into the We Can't Wrestle podcast is Chad Austin.
Oh God.
Nate, do you happen to have who we actually nominated handy?
I probably do.
You're making Nate work now.
Super late. He's ready to go to bed.
Let me see here. Just, I mean, we can run through it real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Based on obviously who was already on the ballot and who was already, obviously you can't nominate somebody that's already on the ballot.
Right.
Previous. Mark, you nominated Tommy Rich, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio Jr., the Bushwhackers, the Soul Patrol, Ricky Steamboat, and you nominated Cena and the Road Warriors.
So Mark likes blondes and tag teams.
Yep.
Archie nominated. Oh, what?
If you give me a tag team blondes, ooh.
So you like Shane Douglas and Johnny Ace?
Oh.
Oh.
Archie nominated Captain Lou, Ball Bearer, Midnight Express, Jushin Liger, Mitsuharu Masara, the Harlem Heat, Steve Williams, and Sensational Sherry.
Yes.
Some of them made the ballot, some of them didn't. And Aaron nominated Sergeant Slaughter, Paul Orndorff, Bill Watts, Kurt Hennig, Vader, The Miz, the Wild Samoans,
The Miz?
and Jim Ross.
You nominated The Miz?
Oh, The Miz is a fantastic current heel. He's the best heel in the business. But go ahead.
Yeah, but dude.
Well, he didn't make the ballot, so Aaron didn't win on that one. He can try to nominate him again next year.
That's fine. If you want to nominate John Cena for something, if you want to nominate John Cena for being a great fucking face, you can't knock The Miz. But go ahead.
And let me see. I nominated the original Sheik, Chris Jericho, Phil Mushnick, who I keep nominating and nobody ever bites.
So I mean,
oh yeah, I said Phil. Sam Mushnick. No, fuck Phil Mushnick.
Worst person you could nominate.
But anyway, Sam Mushnick.
Biggest heel in the business is Phil Mushnick.
I nominated JYD, Buddy Rogers, John Cena, Kurt Hennig, and the Midnight Express. So that's who we nominated, and we can keep trying to fight to get them in next year. But Archie, as we close out this segment, any parting words for our listeners?
Yes, please check out the Nothing But Trouble podcast, as this week we are talking about toys. All toys, all kinds. And next week we will be speaking about... Next week we'll be speaking about the movies and TV shows that we hated as kids. And we are going to end it all with a Die Hard debate. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie? So,
Yippee-ki-yay, mother brothers.
There you go.
With your toys.
With your toys.
Oh.
Aaron?
Just
not those kind of toys, Aaron.
It's a massager, not a toy.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for listening to this show, and we're gonna record Reliving the Extreme. I think on what, Wednesday,
Thursday.
We're
Archie, thanks for filling in last week. By the way,
I had a blast.
Yeah, thank you, Archie. I appreciate that. Yes,
I enjoyed you and Chad that whole conversation. That was great.
Yes,
so,
and then
I'll be back on soon.
We're going to be recording another one of these Hall of Fame things on Wednesday.
Sometime.
I think Wednesday. I don't know. But just thank you guys for listening to all the shows. And listen to Archie's show where he's like, we're going to figure out we're gonna figure out where these toys go.
Not those kind of toys.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of one of my favorite things from The Simpsons. There's a Simpsons episode where Bart gets
It's
kidnapped.
a pine cone.
Yes. Or no, Bart gets kidnapped. And God damn it, I can't remember the exact situation, but the person that kidnaps him has something in their hands, and he's got like a ball gag in.
It's a pine cone. I'm telling you.
And it's Sarah Gilbert from Roseanne that's playing the other character, but she goes, "I'm going to give you one guess where this is going," and Bart goes, "Oh, what?"
Pine cone, man. I'm telling you.
I think it was a pine cone. I think he's right.
I know I'm right.
What? That's so
This is
funny.
the last funny thing the fucking Simpsons ever did.
Homer with the middle fingers in The Simpsons the movie's great too.
Yes.
Yeah, but the pine cone went up Bart's butt after that.
And to close us out, Mr. Mark Brew, your parting words for this segment on the We Can't Wrestle Podcast Hall of
Fucking
Fame.
retarded.
Oh my god.
I hope you guys enjoy listening to this as much as we enjoy recording it.
Yes.
Keep supporting us.
Sorry, it's special.
Be on the lookout for all the hot shit that's dropping this year when it comes to the podcast.
The hot shit coming from my butt.
No, it's going down, baby. That hot shit.
It's going down, all right.
We can never end this thing on a classy
No,
note, so we'll just
no.
end it.
I will say this though, I will never forgive you for the night that we all went off on a tangent about Tammy Lynn Sitch and it got deleted. Because that would have made for the best ending of any show in the world. We would have gotten a cease and desist order or sued, and that would have made this show even better.
You want controversy, pal?
Right.
Controversy creates cash.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we got To Catch a Predator with Stan Hansen in, so. We weren't sued over that one.
Fucking party.